We're back, continuing our tour of J Street Recorders. We're in the studio now, or tracking room. This is where the musicians record either as a group or individually, depending on how the producer is handling that particular session. It can go either way. This room also has some unique features that are part of what makes this a world-class studio. One of the main things is that the floor actually floats. It is not hard connected to the structure of the surrounding building. It floats around kind of in between that. And what that does is it keeps the vibrations from getting out of here into the building or even coming in from maybe a large truck that happens to be passing by outside. The floating aspect of this room is really hard to see because it looks like a solid floor, but right here in between the doorways going in and out of the isolation booths, you can see how the room is actually disconnected from the structure itself. And the walls and even the ceilings of the room are also specially treated to avoid sounds from bouncing around and interfering with each other, going in different microphones when you don't want them to. Some of the walls are hard paneled and other ones have baffles connected to them. And the ceiling in the studio is peaked so that sound doesn't just bounce back and forth between the ceiling and the floor, but rather gets dispersed and eventually just decays away. And there is equipment in the studio too. Right over here you can see a whole wall of amplifiers and speakers, and any musician could probably find what they're looking for in some combination of this equipment over here. And back over this side on the wall is the window looking back into the control room. It's actually two pieces of glass separated by about 3 feet of airlock that keeps the sound from going back and forth between the studio and the control room, both of which can get very loud during a recording session. Another feature of the studio are the isolation booths, or ISO booths. This one is actually 2 rooms connected by a doorway, so you can come into the first isolation booth here, and that leads back into another one even deeper. So in here you can set up very loud speaker cabinets that don't blare into the other mics out in the main room while you record them. And there's one more isolation booth which is used for vocals, and that's called, not surprisingly, the vocal booth. It's completely padded to keep sound from bouncing around at all. As we walk in, you'll be able to hear that any sort of ambient is just kind of gone. And this booth also looks out directly into the control room, so the producer and the vocalist can have eye-to-eye contact. Okay, so that's it for the tour of J Street Recorders. Stay engaged, watch those submissions, and we'll see you down the road for the big break session.